This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast that takes a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and this week we introduce you to new Bates Deputy Director of Athletics, Will Rothermel. Plus, the women's soccer team broke in the new Russell Street Field turf for the 2-0 win over Maine Maritime. The volleyball team is off to a 2-0 start in NESCAC play, and the cross-country teams are both state champions. All that and more coming up on the Bates Bobcast. The Bates football team fell 28-7 to perennial NESCAC power Trinity on Saturday in the home opener for the Bobcats. But despite the loss, there was a lot to be encouraged about in Bates' performance, including the fact they held Trinity to just 328 yards of total offense, the fewest for the Bantams in one game since 2021. Head coach Matt Coyne takes a look back at the Bates Trinity game and looks forward to this Saturday's showdown on the road against Wesleyan. Well, Coach, home opener there on Saturday against an always tough Trinity team. Defense, once again, I thought played well. What stood out to you most from their performance in terms of, holding the Bantams to their fewest total yards in about 3 years?
I think, the biggest thing is limiting the explosive plays. I think their longest play in the day was 20 yards. And for that offense, very senior laden, one of the top receiving corps in the conference for the last 2 years. We really did a good job of making them check it down, making them be patient, and executing on third down, and trying to limit their best player, which is Sean Clapp, the receiver. He still had 2 touchdowns, but he had 5 for 57 yards, and that's pretty good there on the day. And also up front, if you look at the box score, obviously the fake punt rushing yards count against our defense, which is unfortunate. Yeah. But, I think we held them, 25 carries for like 80 yards. And that's a really good offensive line, or a really good running back. And the physicality up front showed again and gave our guys confidence that, these gaps are closing.
The fake punt, you brought it up, obviously was their first score of the game. Is that just something where it's, some younger guys on special teams and they need to be more aware of the situation in terms of being at midfield, or was it a genuine surprise that maybe no one could prepare for?
It's a look we talked about in week 1, and we were in a safe punt look. So our punt return team was out there and we were in a safe look. We weren't rushing. Right. And I think it's just, you can't fall asleep on those. And we knew it was 4th and short. Hindsight, I wish I took a timeout, but we were in a safe punt look, and we live with it. And the big thing I told those guys is the next step in the growth of our program is that's got to be an 8 to 10 yard gain, right, not a 56-yard touchdown. So for us, it's just we missed 3 tackles on that play, and that just shows you that special teams, the importance of it, and we're going to rep it and keep continuing to work it. But trust those young guys out there, and obviously they're going to go through a little bit of growing pains, but they just we have to limit that play to an 8 to 10 yarder and let the defense go back out there and do their job.
And speaking of the defense, I wanted to bring up a big Josh. That sack was cool to see, right? Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, we had a good look, and I think if you look at it on tape, I think it's a screen pass that one of our other D linemen sort of sniffs out and is able to help his partner out there. So Josh got a big play down there, and that really helped us flip the field position wise, and just provide a spark for us during that game.
And then offensively, obviously, you mixed in 3 different quarterbacks. Jack Perry got some action at the end. But what's it going to take for the offense to kind of get into a rhythm and get a more production? Because obviously Linsky was a workhorse, 30 carries, but you can't just run him every time.
Yeah, we're going to run the ball significantly more than we pass. So that's it. Obviously we'll mix some more guys in to get them the ball. I thought up front we physically showed up again, and we were able to move them at times. And if you think about it, the touchdown drive, those 3 plays from the 2-yard line, we physically moved them into the end zone, and that was great growth for our program to see that we could do that against a historically good defense in the red zone. We just have to – it's going to take a little time with our offense. It's a new system. We've been doing it for 5 weeks. We see the improvement week by week, and it's just finding guys that can find those open opportunities down the field that are there. And when you watch the tape, I think our guys are pretty disappointed that we didn't capitalize on a lot of guys that are open down the field. And we have to be able to hit those passes to be able to alleviate some of the run game. But I think that the beauty of it is you look at our offense. Even when we were on that scoring drive, we get to 3rd and 17, and now we run our option and we hit it up the middle for 20 yards. So it's one of those where it forces defenses to not be able to go into a dime or nickel look pass heavy. Now if they do that, we're still going to hand that ball off, and in that fringe zone, we're going to go for it on 4th. But we just have to keep developing. in this new system. It's going to take a little bit of time. And we just need to improve each week, and we need to grow within it. Some young guys still at the skill positions are getting better each week, and we'll see how we continue to develop. But yeah, we're going to rely on our defense in the run game right now, and we're going to develop the pass game over time.
And speaking of the run game, I mean, how's Linsky enjoying all the work?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think he'll be the first to tell you those 5 guys up front, 6 guys that played in that game, including our tight ends, really did a great job. I mean, at the point of attack, we saw vertical movement that we haven't seen before here against, 2 defenses in a row that are very stout and historically really good. I think, Linsky also sees that there's some opportunity for some hidden yardage that was out there still too. And he's going to continue to get better. Again, he's a sophomore. He's a heck of a player, and he'll be a heck of a player, but, he's still going to grow. And I think up front, we're going to take some great confidence into another really tough challenge on the road. So I think we just got to continue to worry about ourselves. And like we talk about, we've closed gaps on teams that historically we haven't been able to compete with. And I think guys see that, and this is part of the build. It's part of the process, and we're going to continue to work towards, flipping the script, and it will happen. And
you mentioned the challenge this week, obviously at Wesleyan, your former team, your alma mater for that matter. They're looking pretty good, aren't they, this year?
Yeah, Coach Ascenzo and his staff do a great job down there, and, they're a very senior-laden team. I think their front 5, starting offensive line are all seniors, quarterback, receivers are seniors. Defensively, they got a lot of guys back. 3 backers, one's a 5th year, other 2 are seniors, 3 DBs. There are 2 seniors, and Nick Donadio, who transferred from Colby, who's a heck of a player as a graduate senior down there, really good D-line. So we have a great challenge ahead of us, and I think our guys are excited about the opportunity to go down there and find out more about us. I think it's a great opportunity to go up against another great opponent, another great litmus test for where our program is and the development and the stages we're going through right now. So for us, we're worried about us and operating and getting better within our systems and growing together and improving our culture day by day, which we're seeing it take effect on that field. I think certain situations in previous years, that game would have taken other ways, once you get down 14-0 or 21-0. But, that third quarter drive against Trinity really showed me that we are a different team, and we're able to be resilient, and we get into a game 21-7 there. And really take away the turnovers and the fake punt, it's a 14-7 game. Right. And for me, that's a huge growth prospect for us.
Well, any other thoughts you wanted to mention about the game we haven't got to talk about yet?
No, I think it was awesome. I want to thank all the you guys, all of our administration that really helped put on a great atmosphere for our guys in our home opener. The fans were great, and just I think people are starting to see that the competitiveness is coming back, and there's a lot of energy around it, and the outcomes will come our way in time. We have to earn that, but for us, I think, shrinking the margins. I mean, my first 2 years here was 63-14 and 52-7. And we weren't in the second half. Their starters from Trinity were eating hot dogs and having hamburgers on the sideline. So I think for us, it's stages to it, it's levels to it, and our guys are really focused, and it takes a full effort. So just want to thank the community, the campus, and our administration for putting on a good show Saturday.
All right, Coach, thanks so much.
Thank you.
The cross-country teams both turned in outstanding performances at the Maine State Meet on Saturday, hosted by the Bobcats at Roy's Disc Golf in Auburn. Both the men's and women's team captured the state title, with the men winning for the 7th time in the last 10 years, and the women winning for the 8th straight season. For the women, senior Phoebe Pohl took first place individually as well, racing to the finish of the 6K course in 22 minutes, 48.4 seconds. And she is our female Bobcat of the week. Well, Phoebe, another state championship for the Bates women's cross-country team. Before we get to that, it's your first time on the Bobcast. You're a senior, so take us back growing up. What first got you into, cross-country running and, by extension, the track and field as well?
Yeah, so I started running, I think, in middle school. My family has always just been involved in the sport, and my dad ran in college, and both of my sisters did as well. So it's kind of just like through my family, I kind of got into it. And then I started running in high school. And then I was actually more focused on diving throughout high school and came to Bates planning to be on the diving team. And then I walked on to cross country my fall and then ended up loving it here. So I just kind of stuck with it, and now I'm here.
Oh, interesting. So when you were looking at colleges, you were looking at Bates for a different sport entirely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it like transitioning, I guess, your mentality and also, the team in terms of, being on a completely different team than you thought you were going to be on?
I loved diving in high school, and then I think I kind of got burnt out of it by the time I got to college. And then just like the team atmosphere at Bates for the cross country team and the track team is just really great. And it's just a really fun, supportive team to be a part of, and just really drew me in. And ever since then, I've loved it. So
Excellent. So take us through the race there at Roy's Disc Golf on Saturday. You led and you ended up winning by a fair amount. So take us through kind of the race from your perspective, how it went.
Yeah, so I think the race went out it wasn't like a fast start. It went out more conservatively, I think, than we had thought originally. We did a workout a week prior where we practiced like going out fast. And so that was kind of like our thought process going into this race is like, we're going to practice going out fast in like a bigger race and just try and get the head start so that we're not trying to like make our way up later in the race when we should just be focusing on, like getting into the groove. And then, yeah, Roy's is a great course. We hadn't exactly ran that exact loop before. The previous year we did a slightly different route around the course, but I think it worked out really well. And there were a few hills, but overall it was just a really, competitive, fun race.
As you were pulling away, at what point were you like, oh, I'm going to win this thing?
Honestly, I wasn't really sure like where I was in relation to the rest of the pack. But I think it was in the last like 400, 500 meters. I heard someone say like on the sidelines, like, oh, like she's going to win this. And I like, it kind of was like, oh, am I like that far ahead? And so I guess I realized then, but
Excellent. And then the team as a whole, how's it looking this year? I mean, obviously the team qualified for nationals last season. Have qualified for nationals quite a few times in recent years. So what's this group like? So far through a couple meets.
Yeah, we definitely have a smaller team this year. Mm-hmm. We only have like 17 or 18 on the women's side, which is a lot smaller, especially since my freshman year coming in, we had a pretty large team. It was like 30 plus on the women's side. So I think it's definitely a shift, but we have gotten a lot closer and just like have figured out how to run together in like our training groups and packs really well. And I think having a smaller team has been a good shift for us. And like, I think we're working together really well. So.
And the course itself, obviously Pineland has been our course for many years here at Bates, but Roy's kind of coming onto the scene now. How do those two compare? They're very different, right?
Yeah. I think they have pros and cons to both. I think Roy's is like a less technical course than Pineland. Like obviously like less hilly, less roots and rocks to look out for. But yeah, I mean, I love Pineland just because it's like beautiful trails and kind of like the traditional cross-country course in the woods. But Roy's is also nice to be able to see the whole course while you're running it.
And what did it mean to have the team win that title again? The 8th straight year the women's team has won it and win it by a lot, right? Over Bowdoin. I mean, you were almost 30 points ahead, basically. So
yeah, I think it was awesome. I mean, I think we didn't really have any expectations going into the meet as to like how we were going to place as a team. Like obviously we've done really well in the past and had that in mind as a goal. But yeah, I think we're all just really happy about the win and just proud of each other as a team. So
great. Now looking at the schedule here we have coming up for women's cross country, how excited are you to host another meet except at Pineland here in a couple weeks?
Yeah, I think we're really excited. It's obviously nice to have just kind of like that home course advantage, and we've run there a bunch of times and like done workouts there throughout the season already. So I think it's just a good opportunity to know the course and go into that with that experience, and I think we're all excited. So. And
then after that, we get the kind of college invitational, and then it's championship season. It's a short season really for cross country. I feel like. So what's your thoughts on kind of what's it going to take to get the team back to a national stage? Coming up in November.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to know this early on, but I think just based off of the past few weeks and what we've seen, I think like we have a great shot at doing really well. And I think just staying consistent and keeping in the groove that we've been in with consistent training and putting in the work, I think we have a great shot. So.
Being a senior, does this season mean a little bit more to you? Like, what are your thoughts on being a senior now?
Yeah, I see every race as like, oh, this is my last Maine States meet. Like, it's puts a little bit of extra motivation, I guess, behind each race, which I think is just good.
Phoebe, thank you so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Congrats again on winning the state title, both as a team and for you personally, individually.
Thank you.
On the men's side, senior captain Andrew Mottur finished in 4th place to pace the Bobcats, crossing the finish line of the 8K course in 26 minutes, 1.8 seconds. And he is our male Bobcat of the week. A very close team score there, Andrew. 6 points separated the two teams. So take us through the race. How did it go from your perspective? You tell me that you weren't sure what Bone was going to do.
I mean, that's true. I think, their front two and ended up being their front three are really good. I mean, I'm not going to, put it any other way. So, but Ben and I knew that we were in really good shape. We know we can compete with them, but we didn't know if we were going to have to go out and lead the race. But coach essentially told us, if it shakes out from the start that you guys have to lead, don't be scared of doing that. I think saying that and doing that are different things. I was a little bit intimidated, honestly, because, I've never led a race in college that's, been as competitive as that one. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but then I realized, I'm just out there running with my boys, running with my friends. So they sat on us for a pretty long time and ended up making a pretty good move. Late in the race, where both Ben and I had a cramp. So I had a cramp when they went, and I was like, I cannot cover that. So I just tried to stay really strong, and then Ben ended up getting a cramp like as I passed him. So, not ideal. We're obviously happy we came out with the win. As you said, the depth, helped us do that, which I think is a great thing about our team. I mean, you look at the results, we put, 10 guys in front of their 4, which is, and those 10 guys don't even score past the 7. They don't even displace anymore, which I didn't know, but we would have beat them by more if you were going off pure scoring. So, yeah, I think it shakes out. That's our strength this year is, we're going to have a really close dispersion between our scoring 5, and that's going to help us win a lot of races, honestly. Even if me or Ben don't have the exact day we want, like, we've got so many guys that are willing to step up, which is an unbelievably awesome feeling.
So you mentioned they don't do displacers anymore, which used to be the tiebreaker, right?
Yeah, so basically, I didn't know this, but I think it makes sense in a smaller meet like this. So basically, what they do is through 7 you'll displace, but we ended up putting 10 guys in front of Bowdoin's 4.
Right.
So what happens is after our 7th guy, even though your place is, whatever it is, so I don't even know what place they ended up getting, but I think it was something like 20, low 20s. But their actual score that goes into their scoring is something like 19.
Oh, okay.
Because they just treat anybody after your 7 as just a void, which
okay.
I mean it worked out in this case, but I think in a bigger meet if they do that, I think that again is our advantage. So we'll see. I think we just we need to keep doing what we're doing. So
it sort of made it closer than it should have been. Is that
sure?
Yeah,
I would say. I mean, halfway during the race, I thought comfortably, like when I look behind and I see a group of we had a group of 6 that was supposed to be behind Ben and I, and when you see that group of 6 doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, like that is just a reassuring feeling that you can go out there and do exactly what you need to be doing, right? I don't need to do. I would have loved to beat 1 or 2 of those Bowdoin guys, but it's the first meet of the year, and I know for a fact that later in the season I'm going to be feeling stronger. So being able to not have my best day, Ben didn't have his best day, yet we still win. Like that's our strength.
Yeah, you touched on this. You kind of have a leadership role now, or you do have a leadership role on the team. Last year, Ned led every race. Ned's now graduated at Maine, and so you and Ben, you mentioned this is kind of a new experience, right? I mean, how'd that go in terms of being kind of the leaders in the race for Bates?
Yeah, I think it's a mindset shift, of course. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of college is, especially college running, like I was never that good in high school. I wasn't that good freshman year, and I think I've gotten better every year. And I think just having to justify to myself that, this is where I'm supposed to be, like I am a good enough runner to be running with those people. Like that is, something you have to think about and sort of come to grips with. I mean, they call it imposter syndrome. Totally, that is like what I had. I think, honestly, thankfully, we've been talking to a sports psychologist this year, and she's been unbelievably helpful with sort of, taking a lot of the bad thoughts, a lot of the stress that comes with running, especially when, I feel like I'm putting more pressure on myself than I ever have. And so it's been really helpful to be able to talk to her as a resource and just be like, these thoughts are just thoughts that I'm having, right? These pressures are just pressure. But if you can just take it and realize that all you can do is run and have your best day, like it's easy to say and hard to do again, but I think she's helped a lot with that. And so when we were, out in front of this race for the first 5K, I didn't feel like there was not a thought that crossed my mind that was like, oh, I shouldn't be here. Like I absolutely believed that I deserved to be in the front of that race. So
terrific. And then also you're a leader in terms of you're one of the captains on this team. So what's it like being captain? What are some added responsibilities now? You're the senior captain for the Bobcats.
I've always said that, you don't have to be a captain to be a leader, especially on a team like cross country. I mean, everybody's voice is heard. We're all doing the same thing. We're all running. So I think for me, being a captain is just kind of continuing what I've always been doing, but just, never shying away from being the one to say something in the huddle or, reiterating something that, we talked about in sports psychology. Or I think I would like to think of myself as one of the leaders even last year when I wasn't a captain, but now having that, C on, Go Bates Bobcats, does it mean something to me? Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I take it with pride. The added responsibility realistically is just having captain's meetings and having Danny talk to you. I have a captain's meeting right after this, but I feel like because I'm doing it with, some of my best friends and, I'm leading my brothers instead of, feeling like I'm having to lead people that are, subordinate to me, I think it takes a lot of the stress away from it instead of feeling like I'm having to come down hard on them or, be some sort of dictator. You're just asking for respect, mutual respect, and we do a good job of doing that. So it's not a stressful position, I don't think.
Certainly. And then Roy's Disc Golf was the site of this year's Maine State meet. You're going to have the Bates Invitational at Pineland Farms in a couple of weeks, but this one was at Roy's there in Auburn. Definitely a different type of course than Pineland Farms. Tell us a little bit about how Roy's compares and contrasts there.
I think Pineland is, I joke that it's one of the only cross-country courses still alive in the NESCAC because, we'll go run at places like Bowdoin, and that's literally flat. There's like 20 feet of elevation in the entire 5 miles. So Pinewood's a dog. I think it brings out the dog in all of us. But we thrive there. But even Roy's, it's not an easy course. It has its hills. I think last year when we ran it was way harder because it was like 85 degrees and humid. And it was also long. It was like almost 200 meters long last year. This year, Coach made a new route and kind of stepped up his game. We have funny pictures of him actually on like a ride-on mower the day before the meet, cutting it down. And he puts in a lot of work. We appreciate everything he does, but that's something that you just won't see other coaches doing, seriously. And so the fact that he's willing to put that in for us, it makes us want to work hard for him. I think the course was in great shape. The grass was cut really low. It was a good loop. Ended up being like perfectly 8K. So I think it was wonderful. Roy's is kind of, people joke about it because it's at a disc golf course, but I think it's a sweet course. I don't hate that we have kind of 2 home courses now. It's pretty cool.
And there's burgers and ice cream waiting, right?
There is. So right after you can go, Coach did plug that at the awards. He's like, for all parents and kids, if before you get on the bus, if you want to go get some ice cream, go get some ice cream. So
excellent. Looking at the schedule here, I mentioned Bates Invitational a couple weeks there at Pineland Farms, and you have Connecticut College Invitational on the 19th. And then it's championship season, right? NESCAC and regionals. Obviously, regional meet is the big one in order to make NCAAs. What's the team's kind of focus in terms of what's it going to take to get to nationals as a team this year?
Sure. I think this it's a long. We think about this all the time, right? Like you have to play the game because. Our region's pretty strong. You're always going to have MIT up there. They're a they won it
Right.
2 years ago. So they're always a top 5 caliber team. And not that I don't think we can't compete with them, but it's hard to there's only one automatic bid out of each region, right? And so in the past, the East has had 4 or 5 teams, but we were 3rd last year in the region and we didn't go.
Right.
I mean, we all felt a little bit snubbed. I get why. I mean, it's all a committee. It's not politics because there's no way to influence it, but there's a lot more that goes into it than just the regional meet. Honestly, in the past, it used to be way, way, way more important what you did at regionals. Okay. And now I would argue it's actually way more important what we do. Not more important, but it's important what we do earlier, right? Okay. Like, so now the Bates invite, we're going to bring up, I think it's 10 plus teams. We're bringing up Washington and Lee, which is, I mean, they're a D3 team out of conference. Like, we'll literally never race them until nationals.
Right.
But coach invited them up. They're flying up here. They're really good. If we can put up, a good fight against them, if not beat them, we're putting ourselves in the rankings. And the thing about the rankings is you just need to get yourself in there and just hold your place. Yeah. Honestly, that was our thing last year. We weren't in the rankings for any, significant portion of time. So when we beat Bowdoin at regionals, it was hard for them to incentivize. We beat a ranked team, but, are we really going to displace somebody else? Versus if you're going into it as a ranked team and you solidify yourself as a ranked team, you're going to go. So the Bates invite, I think, is going to be unbelievably important. I think we're in great shape, and I think we're going to show out there. Conn College invite is probably the biggest interregional meet that we go. I know it's the biggest one we go to, but it's one of the biggest in the country. Yeah. And so if we can, hold our name with respect there, you're going to get ranked. And then NESCAC is always a bloodbath. I mean, NESCAC is the most competitive conference for, I would argue, almost any D3 sport, but especially for cross country. So, we don't need to do anything super special. We just need to be consistent. And if we get into the rankings, I think we're going to hold up because, as I explained before, as you said, our strength is our depth, and that makes us relatively bulletproof. So instead of, there's other teams in our conference that they need to have their 5 guys race super well that day or they're screwed. Right. Versus we can have one person in our 7 race okay, and someone's going to step up. Yeah. So I just think we need to be consistent. We haven't honestly raced super well at Conn College since I've been here, which, again, when I was a sophomore, we went to nationals, but Conn didn't matter as much. And now Conn, I think, matters, at least in my opinion. You're all guessing what the committee's going to care about. But obviously, you just want to do well every week. And I think we're absolutely in a place to do that.
Absolutely. Well, the Bobcats did very well at the Maine State meet, winning it over rival Bowdoin and a host of other schools as well. Andrew Mottur, the top finisher for Bates there on Saturday. Thank you so much for joining the Bobcats. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on.
Speaking of athletes of the week, Bates volleyball first-year Skye Higashihara was named the NESCAC Volleyball Player of the Week after she played a crucial role in the Bobcats sweeping Amherst and Hamilton over the weekend. For Bates, it was their first win over Amherst since 2003. Higashihara averaged 13 assists per set over the course of the 2 matches, and Bates is 2-0 in NESCAC play for the first time since 2015. NESCAC Volleyball Player of the Week, Skye Higashihara, with us here on the Bobcast. And the Bobcats are off to a terrific start in NESCAC play, 2-0 with victories over Amherst and Hamilton. Skye, just take us through the weekend, just from your observations. What was really clicking, you thought, for the team in both those matches?
I think for both the matches, we had really good energy throughout the whole thing. I think that was really important to us, sustaining that energy level and always just staying locked in and focused, dialed in and focused on everything that we need to do.
Excellent. And then I was watching some of the clips as I was cutting highlights, and I was really impressed with those back sets that you do. Yeah. How did you learn that technique? That seems like a really cool way kind of to set up your hitters and whatnot.
Yeah, I was working on that a lot during my club season back home, and then we really honed in on the skill with Coach Emily and then a lot of the hitters as well.
That chemistry obviously is developing quite nicely. What's been the key in your mind?
I think I've been doing a lot of extra reps with a lot of the hitters, so that's been helping. Just feeling them out and then getting to set them multiple times is really good.
So the first match against Amherst, the first set of that first match, you all were, I think, trailing, but you ended the set on a really good run. Take us through that run, what you remember about it.
Something I do remember is she went on a great service run, which really helped us a lot. And I think that really helped to bring up the energy. And I think everyone just really wanted to win. And that just pushed us through that whole first set.
I noticed when you serve, you're a lefty.
Yes.
How does that change things during the rally and whatnot? Or is that not a factor during the actual match? Is it only a factor when you serve?
Sometimes when I'll set the ball over, I'll use my left hand, which is helpful because it's a lot stronger than my right hand. But that's basically it.
Do you think being a lefty throws off your opponent sometimes? Or?
Sometimes. I hope it does.
So, I mean, the team's off to such a great start. As we mentioned, I mean, as a rookie here, what's it like to come in and have this instant success, basically?
It's been good. I love all my teammates and coaches. They've been so supportive, and they're all so nice that I think I could not do it without them.
And then, speaking of the coaches, I mean, what about Coach Hayes? You mentioned, obviously very nice, but what makes her such an effective coach in your mind?
She used to be a setter too, a collegiate setter.
Right.
Yeah, so that's been very helpful. She knows what I'm thinking on the court, and also shout out to our little setter group. We have Nora, Christy, and Lauren. During the games, they're another set of brains and eyes, so they're really helpful.
Well, yeah, Nora, we talked with her after the Hamilton match, but she's a setter, but she also can hit, right?
Yes.
So what's that like to have someone who can do both, sort of?
That was so nice having her back at the Hamilton
Yeah.
match. Yeah, it was I haven't been able to set her a lot because she just came off an injury, but she played really well, and I was so excited to play with her on the court.
And then we talked about this when you were on with Sophia earlier, but how do you decide when to sneak attack? I call it a sneak attack. It's not that's not their technical term, but when you go for the kill yourself when they think you're going to set it, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes it's helpful, or I like to do it during long rallies because everyone's kind of all over the place, and it's just a nice way to throw off the other team. Or sometimes Coach Emily on the sideline, she'll tell me if there's an opening on the court.
Gotcha. So you'll kind of play by ear of what's out there.
Yep.
Sort of. Yeah. And then Amherst, I mean, I don't know how much you look at Bates volleyball history, but it's been a while since the Bobcats have been in Amherst. Was the team aware of that going in at all, or no?
No, we weren't really aware. It was a surprise after the game. It was a great surprise.
You're making a little bit of history there to beat the Mammoths. Being from Hawaii, other NESCAC schools, how familiar are you with them coming here? Probably not much, right?
Yeah, I'm not so familiar with the NESCAC schools. Yeah. Only during my recruiting process did I really figure out the NESCAC, and I thought it was a super cool group of schools, and it's really nice.
And I think you talked about this before. What made Bates kind of stand out, maybe compared to other schools you were looking at?
The coaching, the girls. Yeah. I think it's a good high academic school as well. The campus is beautiful, and the food's great.
And an alumni gym is obviously a classic, New England gym, right? It's almost 100 years old. What's it like playing there?
It's really nice. I love the atmosphere, especially when there's a lot of people in the crowd. All the noise just kind of gets stuck in the gym, and it echoes, and it's really cool.
You got the rafters also you got to deal with. Do you ever have to play it off the rafters, or is that out of play?
Yeah, we can play it off the rafters. Yeah. I think that's a home advantage for us because we'll have that happen during practices, so it's nice.
Excellent. And then you got a week here to prepare for your next challenge, which will be Tufts. A pair of teams that are, you both beat the same teams last weekend. So what are your thoughts on this match coming up?
We're all excited to play against Tufts. We really want to beat them. And I think it's going to be a good competitive game. And
what's it mean to you to be NESCAC Player of the Week here?
That's pretty cool. I was very surprised, taken aback, but I think that just shows it's also a result of how hard we work as a team together. And I couldn't have done this without the team and their support. And
working with the hitters, take us through each of the hitters you kind of work with, whether it be middle hitter or outside hitter, and how that. What's that dynamic like? What are you working on in practice, based on the, quick sets or cross courts and whatnot?
During practices, it's just nice to set my hitters a lot of the times because then we can find a connection. And I think that connection is really important because that will come through during games. So it's just repetitive, keep practicing setting them.
And you're also up there by the net getting some blocks or helping out there. And how tall are you? You're not that tall, right?
No, I'm 5'6". So.
Okay, but you're up there. You can get some height. So what's it like practicing that? And What's the key to that for you in terms of being up at the net and trying to impact the other team when they try to hit?
Yeah, I've been working with Coach Emily a lot on my blocking. I think it's one of my weaker points. So I've been working on that and also getting in the weight room so I can get a higher vertical.
It seems like you get over the net, though. It looked like.
Yes, hopefully I'm doing that.
Excellent. And then the volleyball team has Team Impact with Mackenzie Barker.
Yes.
And she's at a lot of your games. What's it like having her around?
It's so fun having her around. She has her own little locker in our locker room, so she'll come in and get dressed with us too. So that's really fun. And she's so cute too. It's nice having her at all the games.
It seems like the team is having a lot of fun. And every year it seems like the team has a lot of fun, but especially this year it seems like so far. Is that true? Is it a fun start to the year for everyone?
Yeah, definitely a fun start.
What's been obviously winning, but what's the most fun part about being on this team for you?
There's a lot of characters on the team. Definitely, the girls are so funny and hilarious. They always put a smile on my face during practices. I just love them.
So, give me an example of one of the hilarious teammates. What's something someone does?
Anais, she's another freshman. Mm-hmm. She's playing right side a lot this season. She's just so funny. The things she says gets me laughing all the time.
Staying loose.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, any other thoughts you wanted to share on the two matches this past weekend we haven't got to talk about in terms of moments that stand out, perhaps?
Moments that stand out. I don't know. I just really like that final moment. That last match point is always the best feeling, and just everyone rushing on the court. That's always the best.
And hopefully we'll see a lot more of that this year. Bobcats off to a great start, 2-0 in NESCAC play, 2-0 for the first time since 2015 in NESCAC, and with a huge match Friday night, 7 o'clock against Tufts, a battle of two undefeated in NESCAC teams. Should be a lot of fun. Skye Higashihara, the NESCAC Player of the Week, the first one for Bates since 2017. Thank you so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
The women's soccer team is 4-1-1 on the season after beating Maine Maritime Academy 2-0 Monday night at the brand new Russell Street Field. In the 15th minute, first-year Eleanor Martin scored the first goal on the new surface, which will be officially dedicated this Saturday in a ceremony as part of Back to Bates weekend. Martin joins the Bobcast to talk about her goal and the season as a whole so far. Well, Eleanor, before we talk about the first game on the new Russell Street turf, take us back. When did you start really getting competitive into soccer growing up in Virginia, and what eventually led you to Bates?
So I started playing soccer when I was about 3 years old, and my love for the sport started then and just continued to grow. I moved up, started playing travel when I was 8, and moved to the ECNL club my freshman year of high school. I eventually ended up moving down and playing for the ECNL RL club my senior year, really enjoyed it. I decided to come to Bates my junior year of high school. Coach reached out to me after he saw me play at a tournament, and I'd seen a couple other schools and wasn't really sure if I wanted to play at the college level, but after visiting and meeting the team, I just knew that this was a school for me.
So being from Virginia, Maine, obviously, very far north. Have you ever been to Maine before?
I have. So my grandparents actually live in Brunswick, which
Okay.
is only about 30 minutes away, so I'd come up here ever since I was little.
So it was a natural fit.
Yes.
Excellent. And then yesterday, Monday night, Russell Street Field. Obviously, you didn't play on it before because you were in high school, but it used to be grass. Now it's turf. So what was the experience of playing under the lights? And I'm sure you and your teammates were probably pretty excited to finally get on the field, right?
It was definitely very exciting. Obviously, since I hadn't been there before, I hadn't experienced it when it was grass, but just feeling the energy from all the upperclassmen, especially through preseason, they were all very excited for the field to be finished. So being out there our first night and under the lights, it was just a great experience.
I am curious because it's turf, but I feel like it's slightly different than the Garcelon turf, or is it similar?
No, it definitely is different. The Garce turf is a little softer and feels different, and the Russell Street turf definitely still needs to be broken in a little, but after practicing on it, it's been nice to get used to it, and I think I like it better than Garce.
Okay, and you scored the first goal on the new field, so take us through the goal.
So I'd had a couple chances where Molly had played me the ball through behind because they were playing kind of a deeper line, but I was still, the outside back would go up, and there was still a center back holding me onside. So she'd given me a couple chances, and finally she just played the ball through, and I finished it one time.
And you were part of the group way back at the beginning of the year against Husson, where everyone who scored in that match were first years, including yourself. And so what's this first year group like? It seems like it's coming together quite nicely for you all.
Yes, it's definitely a very tight-knit group. We do a lot of stuff together, especially off the field, but on the field, we're always like, we have a great connection. Gwen and I feel like we're always working really well together. She's on my side, and it's definitely nice to have another first year who's just there and like really understands it. And then whenever Bernie comes in, she's just always brings the energy and the cheekiness, and I just love watching everyone play.
Do you have any goal celebrations in mind? Because I know she did the gritty when she scored.
I do not, but she definitely comes up with a lot and is willing to share. So she passes them around.
So you mentioned, so you're a forward, and you mentioned Gwen's on the same side of the field as you. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
So Gwen plays outside mid. We have 4 in the midfield, so
Okay.
she plays the outside center mid, and she'll be the one that's like kind of in my line.
Gotcha. Okay, excellent. And then, your initial impressions, I guess, as a first-year college soccer compared to high school, compared to club, what's been similarities, differences, perhaps?
It definitely goes game by game. I say like Husson, that game was pretty typical to some club games I played in, but then Wesleyan this weekend was definitely something I never experienced before, very aggressive, very fast. And then MMA, obviously, last night was, I think, just a mix between like everyone's very athletic, which is like club, but kind of the just physical aggression I'm sort of used to from high school. So it's just definitely a mix of the two.
Excellent. And then the team's obviously off to a good start, through 6 matches so far. The Bobcats have compiled a strong record of 4-1-1. What's been the key in your mind to the success of the team early on?
I think we're definitely playing together really well, but also like the team environment's really good. Everyone's like getting along great. On and off the field, we do stuff like we're always in commons eating together, talking, and like if something does come up, like we handle it really well. And then practice, like the energy's just always there, and everyone's always like encouraging others, and it's a really good environment.
And you said your grandparents live in Brunswick?
For part of the year, they do.
Oh, have they gotten the chance to come to any of your matches?
They have. They've come last night, I think. Might have been the first night they weren't there, but they had some friends that were there.
Okay.
But they've come to like most of them, and I think they're planning on coming again this weekend.
Great.
So.
What do they tell you about the experience of watching you play?
They really like it. It's really great to have them there cheering me on because obviously my parents down in Virginia can't come to every game. So it's nice to have like someone there to like see after every game.
Terrific. Well, any other thoughts you wanted to share on the first game on the new Russell Street turf we haven't got to talk about yet? Anything that stood out to you?
I don't think so. It was definitely just a really great environment. Loved like all the fans cheering us on.
Yeah, and you'll have a big NESCAC match there during the day, 11 a.m. on Saturday against Amherst. What are your thoughts on that one coming up?
I think that'll definitely be a great fight. Probably a little harder than our one last night, maybe more like the one this weekend. But I think we're really going to put in the work this week to get the result we need this weekend.
Absolutely. Bates and Amherst coming up 11 a.m. on Saturday on the new Russell Street turf. The first goal scorer, Eleanor Martin, thank you so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
One of the fans at Monday's match on the new turf surface of Russell Street Field was new Bates Deputy Director of Athletics, Will Rothermel. It was his first day on the job as he fills the role previously held by Celine Cunningham, who is now the Director of Athletics at Dickinson College. One of Rothermel's first actions at Bates is being a guest on the Bobcast. Well, Will, first of all, welcome to Bates. It's officially your second day as a Bobcat. What's the onboarding process been like so far? How are you adjusting to life here on campus coming up from St. Joe's?
Oh, well, thanks for having me, Aaron. This is great to be here. I've loved every minute of it so far. Had a full day yesterday, capped off with a nice women's soccer win. But yeah, just kind of drinking through a fire hose, as I've told people, but it's all good. And I just have felt such a warm reception and just love every bit of being part of Bobcat Nation.
And you're from Maine, from York. So tell me a little about growing up, what first got you into sports in general, and then you played basketball, I know, in college.
Yeah, no, I grew up in York, Maine. I was the only member of my family born in Maine, but went to York High School, had a great experience there, and went on to play basketball at St. Michael's College in Vermont. Played a bunch of sports growing up and really knew that I wanted to be involved in sport, and really probably didn't realize until my senior year of college that college athletics was an option as a profession, and wanted to find a way to give back to students, and make sure that they had a a positive experience and that athletics was a key piece of their educational growth as students in college. So, I was around so many different sports and, played so many different types of sports growing up that I, thought maybe this is something I want to do. I actually started out becoming a financial advisor right out of college. That lasted about 6 months and quickly reaffirmed that I wanted to be in college athletics. So sometimes you just need to veer off the track a little bit to realize what your true passion is.
I find that interesting when people are financial advisors right away out of college. Like, do people really want to take the advice of a 22-year-old? I don't know for finance, but that's another issue. We mentioned you quickly realized you wanted to work in college athletics. You've worked like every level, right? D1, D2, D3. So tell me a little bit about the variety of experience you've had and what that's kind of taught you in terms of working at different levels in terms of sizes of schools.
Yeah, no, it's been such a vast array of schools, sizes, shapes, divisions. And like you said, Division 1, 2, and 3, playing Division 2, working Division 2 as an intern shortly after that, and then going to a multi-division school like Merrimack College. I was there for 4 years, but also had gone to grad school at Old Dominion, Division 1 school, added a football program, became an FBS program. And then, my first foray into Division 3 was going to Ithaca College from, my time at VCU, which was also Division 1. So I've kind of bounced back and forth between Virginia and New England. But I've loved just what I've been able to gather at each stop and, really get immersed in all different sorts of areas, internal operations, external, everything from sports information to compliance to fundraising, corporate sponsorship, ticketing. So it's really given me a broad perspective of how to do things at different levels. And I think that, the principles kind of remain the same. It's really a lot of times just about how you scale it. And sometimes just more zeros at the end of those dollars. But in the end, we're trying to do the same thing as a lot of different schools are in terms of delivering a positive student experience. But I think finding Division III at Ithaca College and then most recently at St. Joseph's College and now at Bates has really driven home my belief in the Division III philosophy, and that's such a key component, I think, to why I'm drawn there. Why I like a school like Bates that offers a competitive environment, but really is grounded in the true essence of being a student athlete, and that's the Division III philosophy, I believe.
Well, you touched on this, but what are some of the commonalities between the different divisions, and what are some of the significant differences you've noticed?
Yeah, no, I think that Division III, there's really more of a connection to the student. You have more interfacing, more interaction, more of a pulse, hopefully, on the day-to-day experience. I think there's some great balance. I think you can be ultra competitive, compete for national championships, but at the same time, you can go study abroad and you can do all these things to get involved in clubs and organizations on campus, which is just, I think, what is special about a college experience. Whereas, perhaps if you're at a bigger school where, you're fully immersed in your sport almost year round sometimes, you lose some of that connection as far as my role goes. I mean, I think coaches have a consistent interaction in terms of working with their student athletes, but as an administrator in my role, it's limited. And I think you're a little more specialized at the larger schools, the higher level, which I think was great. And I loved the people I worked with at those various stops and learned so much about, my work as a professional in the industry. But just at the end of the day, I was missing a little bit of that interaction, that personal connection to teams and students and the student athlete pulse and how I could see my tangible impact. I really saw that coming to life in Division III, whereas in Division I, I was a little bit removed from it.
Gotcha. And then you mentioned St. Joseph's earlier. You were the AD at St. Joseph's, and now here you're going to be the deputy AD. And so now you're the right-hand man, for lack of a better word, for our AD, Jason Fine. So that's going to be, I imagine, a bit of adjustment going from, the leader of the entire department to being the number 2, but like, what was the appeal of Bates, and what adjustments are you going to have to make, you think?
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and I think it is something I'm really excited about. I've known Jason for a number of years now, just having worked together as athletic directors in the state of Maine and in Division III. And I think there's so much value I can bring in terms of my perspective, having been an athletic director, kind of knowing what Jason is thinking about on a day-to-day basis. It's kind of like a head coach hiring a coach as an assistant who's also been a head coach before, so they understand, what are some of those pressures that they're dealing with? How can I run interference, handle some of these day-to-day things, so that Jason can be freed up to do some more of the strategic things that need to be done, and hopefully I can be involved in those strategic initiatives as well and grow as a professional. I think that was a big part of my the draw to Bates was getting to work with someone like Jason, but also seeing the structure, the professionalism, just the level of the organization in terms of how things operate. I think, not to blow smoke, but I think your area, Aaron, with, how it's presented through various media is just, indicative of the type of program it is. And I think that kind of transcends, throughout the entire athletic department. And I think that's something, that draws me in. The opportunity to be part of the NESCAC is a natural thought for me in this whole process. But yeah, it's going to be an adjustment, having been the athletic director where, you're the content expert and, as far as your campus goes, the buck stops with you in a lot of areas. But, I think that was my first time as an athletic director. So I learned a ton about that sort of responsibility, how a program operates. But I also see that there's such great upward potential at a place like Bates. So the timing, was natural for me to pursue this opportunity.
Growing up in Maine, how familiar were you with Bates? Was it always kind of on your radar as a school that you might be interested in being a part of someday?
It was in my awareness as a high school student, as much as it could be, I guess. I had some classmates and friends who attended Bates and played sports here, so I was aware of it to that extent. I think growing up as a boy playing basketball, I had grand visions of maybe going to play at a certain division, a certain level, maybe getting out of state to experience something different. And didn't really have a good concept of Division I, Division II, Division III. And I wish I did know more about that, because I think the Division III experience is just special and something that, really hits home with me. And while I have no regrets and love that, I could go to St. Michael's College and meet my best friends and have a great experience there, I think Division III is where it's at.
Excellent. And then you mentioned the first game you got to attend as a staff member here at Bates yesterday, the 2-0 win for women's soccer there on the new Russell Street turf. What was the experience to see turf field be unveiled there under the lights?
Yeah, it was really cool. It's a special moment. Obviously I wasn't here prior to this, but you could tell that there was energy out there on the field. The women were playing, on tilt and, had a lot of energy coming out of the gates. So I think it's just huge for our student athletes. Just going to open up so many opportunities from, the lights allowing you to play later in the evening. Obviously the artificial surface, allows us to play in various weather elements throughout the year. So I think that shows a great commitment by the college to athletics and the importance of, delivering a high quality experience. And it's kind of the way that, you need to go in the Northeast a lot of times, is to have those fields that are going to be ready in inclement weather, especially if you want to be able to host championships and do things like that for, the growing demand that is out there. So I think it's just phenomenal. And just another reason to be excited about Bobcats athletics.
Excellent. So this being, obviously your first week here, but what are some things you have in your mind about what you want to accomplish over the next, month or two in your first few months here at Bates in terms of your role, I guess? Obviously there's a lot of listening and learning, I'm sure, but what are some things in your mind that you kind of want to hit the ground running with, perhaps?
Yeah, on day 2, it's probably early to say that. It'd be pretty ambitious. I think like you said, it's a lot of listening, a lot of absorbing, just kind of understanding the nuances of the department, get to meet as many people as I can, start to meet the student athletes, dive right into the compliance piece of things. That's going to be a large part of my responsibility is overseeing compliance. So, understanding what that means in the context of the NESCAC, because that's a different set of.
It's true. Yeah, there's a whole other rule set.
Yeah. So I think there's just going to be a lot of soaking in at this point of information and meeting as many people as I can at this point, and then seeing where I can position myself to support the department, support Jason, support our coaches and our student athletes.
Excellent. Well, any other thoughts you wanted to share on arriving here on the Bates campus you wanted to mention we haven't got to talk about yet, perhaps?
No, I just really appreciate being on, and I have to pinch myself when I get on the campus still. The last few times I've been here, I feel like it's been awesome to have the welcome I've had. I do want to give a plug to my family, because they're a huge part of this, and anyone in athletics knows that it takes a family a lot of times and a lot of understanding. But my wife Laurel and our 3 kids, Brooks, Reese, and Charlotte, are our biggest supporters, and they're quickly becoming Bobcats, and they'll be around campus, and just super excited to have them become a part of that Bates family.
Yeah, you got to take a family trip to the Bates store. Is that on the docket?
We've made a couple already.
You already
yes.
Okay,
yeah,
excellent.
Yeah, we've got some gear. We were here for the football game and the volleyball match on Saturday. So they love it. They're 6, 4, and 4. So we have twin girls. So they're still kind of coming to grips with Daddy's new job at a different college, but I think they're coming around, and I look forward to having them around more and more.
Excellent. Will Rothermel, our new Deputy Director of Athletics here at Bates College. Day 2 for him. He's 1-0 so far after women's soccer won yesterday. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Aaron. I appreciate it.
Make sure you're tuning in tonight as the field hockey and men's soccer teams take on Bowdoin at 7 o'clock. Field hockey is 3-2 on the year and ranked 12th in the country, while men's soccer is 4-1-1. And of course, visit GoBatesBobcats.com for all the latest Bates athletics news. And we'll catch you next time on the Bates Bobcast.